In our headlines on this Monday afternoon, September 4th, here in South Korea. The country marks 49 days since the shocking suicide of a young teacher in a classroom in a primary school in southern Seoul, sparking nationwide rallies for better protection of faculty rights within the academic arena. Finance Minister Chuseok vows to support the recovery momentum on the export front by providing 181 trillion won or some $137 billion worth of policy financing for exporters until the year's end. And authorities here are also looking to waive electronic visa application fees for Chinese nationals on group tours here in South Korea until the year's end as part of broader efforts aimed at attracting a total of 2 million Chinese tourists this year. Teachers here in Korea today are taking to the streets demanding better protection of faculty rights at schools nationwide. And the Yoon administration as well as the ruling party are striving to respond to their demands. Our political correspondent Lee Si-hoo reports.
Monday marks the 49th day since the death of a young school teacher who committed suicide at the school where she taught in Seoul's Seoul district. At the end of the period of mourning lasting 7 weeks in the Buddhist tradition, teachers across the country are gathering to remember her death and remember other teachers who also recently took their own lives. Many of the mourners believe that an overall fall of teachers' rights has led to the deaths. They are taking leave from their schools to take part in rallies across the country, calling for better protection of teachers' rights. There are rallies scheduled in front of the National Assembly as well as in front of regional offices of education across the country. A mourning ceremony hosted by the Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education is also planned for the afternoon. The Ministry of Education has said that while it sympathizes with the teachers' wishes to mourn the deaths of their colleagues, it will also take strict measures against the teachers' decision to take leave from school to take part in collective action. Meanwhile, the presidential office, the government, and the ruling People Power Party on Sunday held a closed meeting to discuss response measures to the teachers' collective action and how to restore teachers' rights in and out of schools. After the meeting, the PPP announced that the party and the government will work to quickly push comprehensive measures to help improve teachers' rights. They will work to push 4 major bills that will help alleviate the difficulties experienced by teachers and help protect teachers from unreasonable complaints and petitions by demanding parents. The bills will also protect teachers from false child abuse accusations. And they will ensure teachers' rights to give guidance to students without being accused of child abuse. An official from the presidential office, too, stressed that the laws and rules must be respected, but also said the office will closely look into the teachers' requests. Meanwhile, the Education and Justice Ministries have launched a joint task force to solve the issue of parents with ulterior motives falsely accusing teachers of child abuse. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
In other news, Seoul's finance minister believes Korea has stepped into its early stage of recovery and has vowed tangible financial support to bolster the export front and more. Our correspondent Shin Ha-young has details.
South Korea's economy is in the early stage of recovery. This is how Seoul's finance minister Chuseok on Monday assessed the country's current economic status during an emergency ministerial meeting.
Recently, our economy has seen monthly fluctuations, but it appears to be in the early stages of recovery. However, uncertainties in external conditions such as China's economic situation remain.
The decline in exports in August narrowed from a month earlier thanks to a recovery in the chip industry. The country also reported a trade surplus for the 3rd straight month. The government expects the fall in exports to narrow further in September, with the trade balance also set to stay in the black. In response to other economic uncertainties, Chu said that the government will remain cautious and focus on strengthening export recovery momentum. To do so, the government will provide 181 trillion Korean won, or roughly $137 billion of development policy financing to exporters through to the end of this year. It also plans to skip a feasibility study related to plans to build the world's largest high-tech chip production cluster so that it can be established more quickly. The massive semiconductor hub announced in March will be built in Yongin, Gyeonggi-do Province, which is close to the capital. To develop next-generation batteries, there will be new R&D projects, including for lithium iron phosphate batteries and sodium-ion batteries. Amid the heating up of OTT platform competition around the world, the government will also create a K-content strategic fund worth around $750 billion to expand its presence in the global entertainment industry. As part of their plans to diversify export regions, the government will target both major markets such as the US and China, as well as emerging markets like the Middle East. In particular, Chu emphasized the importance of China's market, saying that it plans to hold a bilateral finance ministerial meeting with China sometime this year. 신하영, Arirang News.
Also addressed during Monday's emergency economic meeting were plans to attract more Chinese tourists to South Korea. Plans include exempting Chinese nationals traveling in groups from electronic visa application fees that cost 18,000 won, or some $13.60 per person, until the end of this year. According to Seoul's Justice Ministry, group tours comprise 3 or more individuals who've signed up for a tour via a travel agency designated by the Korean embassy in neighboring China. Flights between the two countries will also be expanded. The goal is to triple the number of Chinese travelers from 500,000 in the first half of this year to 1.5 million in the second half. Now, intentions to this end followed Beijing's recent lifting of its ban on group tours to Korea. And President Seoul will call on his global counterparts for greater efforts to counter North Korea's hostile weapons technology. In a written interview with the Associated Press ahead of the ASEAN summit in Jakarta and the G20 summit in New Delhi this week, President Yoon shared concern over the regime's rampant missile testings and its nuclear weapons intentions. Accordingly, he pledged to push for a stern global front against North Korea's access to funds needed to advance its aggressive ambitions. He also claimed that China holds much leverage over North Korea's activities and thus should seek, quote, constructive efforts to denuclearize North Korea. Moving on, President Seoul has invited ethnic Korean survivors of the Hiroshima atomic bomb to visit Korea during the Chuseok holiday this month. According to the top office this past weekend, the invitation follows the president's earlier meeting with the survivors on the sidelines of the Group of 7 summit in Hiroshima back in May, where he initially shared hopes for their visit to their homeland in the near future. The potential visit will likely be arranged by the recently launched Overseas Koreans office. Speaking to the media after the Biden administration's latest charm offensive in Beijing, U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo claimed her country has sufficient tools to tackle China's triggering of tensions if necessary. Our Shin Se-byuk covers her remarks.
U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo said the U.S. has sticks that it can use to counter China if Beijing triggers conflict. In an interview with CNN on Sunday, Raimondo said there are plenty of tools, including export controls and tariffs, to use against China that Washington is ready and willing to use if necessary. The remarks followed Raimondo's visit to China last week to discuss U.S.-China commercial ties. She's the 4th senior U.S. official to visit China this year and the first Commerce Secretary to visit the country in 5 years. In another interview with NBC on the same day, she said Washington's export controls on China are about national security, not about gaining an economic advantage. Last year, the Biden administration announced export controls, banning Chinese companies from buying advanced semiconductors and chip-making equipment without a license. Raimondo, despite strained relations between the two sides, reiterated the importance of cultivating the $700 billion bilateral relationship and said Washington will continue to sell chips to Beijing, but not the most sophisticated ones that China wants for military purposes. Meanwhile, the U.S. is expected to elevate its diplomatic relations with Vietnam as President Joe Biden is set to travel to Hanoi on September 10th following the G20 summit in India. The visit comes as the Biden administration seeks to strengthen ties with Indo-Pacific countries.
As the United States looks to deepen our ties with the region, Vietnam is going to be a key partner. And so the deliverables that will be announced as part of this visit will reflect both the breadth and also the depth of that relationship.
And according to the Washington Post, Biden could sign a comprehensive strategic partnership with Vietnam. The CSP is Vietnam's highest diplomatic partnership and is 2 notches above the 2 countries' current comprehensive partnership. So far, Vietnam has only formed the CSPs with 4 countries: South Korea, China, India, and Russia. The motivation for such a diplomatic move can be seen as part of Washington's move to bolster economic and security ties with the Indo-Pacific countries while countering China. 신세벽, Arirang News.
And China is reeling in the aftermath of a typhoon this past weekend that is said to be the strongest to slam the country in 70 years, in over 70 years that is. Our Lee Kyung-won reports.
Strong enough to slam a woman onto the ground, Super Typhoon Saola made landfall in South China's Guangdong province on Saturday. Packing winds of 125 miles per hour, the strongest since 1949, the typhoon prompted China's most severe red alert. Nearly 800,000 people were evacuated, 13 cities delayed the start of the school term following the summer break, tens of thousands of fishing boats returned to port, and Taishan nuclear power plant halted outdoor operations. Fallen trees, damaged cars, and flooded roads were seen in Hong Kong, where hundreds of flights have been cancelled.
This typhoon seems to be not as strong as a typhoon number 10 before. I was safe at home, but I heard from some friends that their windows got damaged, exhaust fans blew away, or there were leaks and they had to wipe away the water.
I live near the sea, so this time I felt the strong winds. The whole apartment felt like it was shaking.
Saola later weakened to a tropical storm. Trains, flights, and ferries resumed operations as Guangdong downgraded its emergency response for typhoon from the highest level 1 to level 3.
We will stay vigilant in typhoon defence work and strengthen inspections of medium and small rivers, geological hazards and urban areas prone to waterlogging to prevent secondary disasters.
While the exact scale of damage is yet to be announced, another typhoon, Haikui, is heading towards China's province of Fujian after passing through Taiwan. Yoon, Arirang News.
And rampant rainfall has also rendered hostage thousands of campers at an arts festival in the U.S. state of Nevada amid related road closures. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
The remote site of the annual Burning Man Festival in northwest Nevada in the U.S. was slammed with 2 to 3 months worth of rain in just 24 hours between Friday and Saturday morning. The heavy rain led to road closures that left around 70,000 attendees stuck in the Nevada desert as the dry desert ground turned into clay-like mud, making it too difficult to walk through. Authorities told attendees on Saturday to seek shelter in the Black Rock Desert and conserve food, water, and fuel as more rainy weather was expected in the area. While a few have managed to leave the area by walking, many RVs and cars became bogged down in mud. Authorities have not provided information on when the roads could reopen, but better weather is expected from Monday. Currently, no driving is allowed in or out of Black Rock City, a full-fledged, thriving temporary metropolis where the Burning Man Festival is held. Meanwhile, the local sheriff's office said it's investigating a death that occurred during the rain event after a body was discovered on Saturday local time. The authorities did not publicly reveal the name of the person or provide details on the circumstances of the death. They added that the individual was found unconscious and that life-saving procedures to revive them were not successful. Each year, tens of thousands of people travel to the remote area in northwest Nevada to take part in the Burning Man Festival to make art, dance, and enjoy a community spirit. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
On the entertainment front, K-pop girl group BLACKPINK has been nominated in 6 categories for the 2023 MTV Video Music Awards. Now, they include Best Editing, Best Art Direction, Best Choreography, Best K-pop Group of the Year, and Show of the Summer. Meanwhile, K-pop boy band Tomorrow by Together has seen its song, Sugar Rush Ride, nominated in 4 categories, including Push Performance of the Year. Other K-pop acts such as 50/50, New Jeans, 17, Stray Kids and Jungkook have also been nominated for awards. Now, this year's award ceremony will take place in New Jersey on September 12th, that is next Tuesday. And Seoul's Light Show is back on at the Dongdaemun Design Plaza to usher in the autumn, and my colleague Chuseok was there to take a look.
The autumn evening sky in Seoul is filled with the layers of lights. The Seoul Light DDP 2023 Autumn Festival kicked off on Thursday night at Dongdaemun Design Plaza and will run until September 10th. The event has been held since 2019, but only during the winter, and this year is the first time it will be held both in autumn and winter.
The main theme of this year's event is digital nature, brought to life through human technology in urban spaces.
The highlights of this event are the works of the world-renowned digital art master Miguel Chevalier, as well as the artist and environmental activist Dan Osher. Chevalier is seen as a pioneer of digital art, seeking the harmonious coexistence between nature and artificial elements by using the architecture, history, and seasons of specific locations. At this year's event, he used AI to bring his artwork to the wall of Design Plaza.
I have visited Korea many times and have vividly experienced its different seasons. The sensations of the wind and colors, and these elements became a major source of inspiration for me.
Awaiting visitors on the DDP Grass Hill is another remarkable work of art. Swiss-born artist and activist Dan Osher has used layers of lights to replicate the natural phenomenon of auroras. Having showcased it in 38 countries, including Paris and London, he shared mesmerizing urban auroras and expressed how he felt honored to perform in Seoul.
The idea is to recreate this natural phenomenon, but also potentially the feeling that people can have when they see the real northern lights, this feeling of awe, this expansion that appears.
Both artists said sharing their artwork in public and open spaces is the key to enjoyment, breaking free from standardized spaces like art galleries.
I think it's an amazing show. I haven't seen anything like this before. I think it's picturesque, and I'm fond of this building.
That I cannot stop looking at it. And at the same time, I'm continuously taking photographs with my mobile phone because every angle that I look at it is so different.
These public artworks can be enjoyed daily and free of charge from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Dongdaemun Design Plaza. Chuseok, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky has said he plans to replace Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov. The announcement came on Sunday during Zelensky's nightly video address to the country. The Ukrainian leader noted that Reznikov has been through 550 days of war since Russia invaded, and that now is the time for new approaches. Reznikov was appointed defense minister in November 2021 and has helped secure billions of dollars of Western military aid. But his ministry has been hit by graft allegations following reports of the purchase from Turkey of winter uniforms at inflated prices. Reznikov has refuted the allegations, calling them smears. Zelensky plans to replace Reznikov with Rustem Umerov, the head of Ukraine's main privatization fund. The move comes amid efforts to root out corruption in the country's military. Those efforts include Zelensky last month firing officials in charge of military conscription. Moving on to India, where the country successfully launched a rocket to begin the country's first solar mission. Blasting off from the Satish Dhawan Space Center on Saturday, a satellite called Aditya L1 was successfully put into orbit. The spacecraft aims to study solar winds capable of causing disturbances on Earth, such as auroras. It will travel approximately 1% of the distance between the Sun and the Earth on its 4-month, 1.5 million kilometer journey. Aditya is the Hindu name for the god of the sun, while L1 refers to a spot between the Sun and Earth where the satellite will eventually stop. Last week, India successfully landed a spacecraft near the moon's south pole. Now, Pope Francis has conducted his first Mass in Mongolia. The Pope delivered a sermon in Ulaanbaatar on Sunday to over 1,400 Mongolian Catholics. That's almost all the Catholics in the country. Mongolia has one of the newest Catholic communities, according to the Vatican. It only had 14 devotees back in 1995. The main religion in the country is Buddhism. The Mass was also attended by devotees from regional neighbors, including Chinese Catholics, whom the Pope greeted, saying they should be good Christians and good citizens. And finally, archaeologists in the Peruvian region of Cajamarca have discovered a pre-Hispanic worship site. According to local and Japanese researchers on Saturday, they discovered 2 burial chambers, human remains and ceramic offerings that date back some 800 to 1,000 years. They also found 2 musical ceramic wind instruments and mollusk shells. The archaeologists said the remains come from the Wari culture before they were conquered by the Inca Empire. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. There's a chance of rain today, so please have a small umbrella handy on your way out. Heavy rain pounded down on west of central regions through the first half of the day. Then central regions could see 5 to 40 millimeters of showers today. Meanwhile, east of Gangwon-do province and Jeju Island could see up to 40 millimeters of showers through tonight. Then there could be a passing rain of 5 to 40 millimeters in inland areas in the latter half of the day, along with thunderstorms. Now, afternoon highs are a few notches higher than what we would usually have around this time of year, hovering around 30 degrees Celsius in most of Korea. Then, except in the west of Jeju Island, the resort island will see much awaited sunny skies with very high UV rays and an expected high of 31 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Well, hope you enjoy the sunshine. It rained for nearly all of the past 2 weeks there. East of Gangwon-do and the East Coast to see rain through the middle of this week, but elsewhere can expect much brighter conditions with afternoon warmth. Now that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions. Right, and that ends Monday's afternoon newscast. We have our panel session coming up next, so do stay with us.